you want to remember the topography of Jerusalem, try to remember the first word of God's name in Hebrew. Shin, the first letter. This will be the Kidron River. That will be the Gehenna Valley. And in the center, you have the Central Valley. Kidron, Gehenna, and Central. Those excavations proves that where we thought to be the Central Valley is incorrect. We thought the Central Valley, the middle line is where the road is. But those excavations prove us wrong. The middle line, the hill line, was actually here. Basically what I want you to remember, that when you look on the maps and topographic models and the models of Jerusalem, they got it wrong. The size of the city of David was apparently 40% bigger than we thought until 2 years ago. 40% bigger the size of the city of David. That's the bottom line. That's what I want you to remember. And the valley was not where we thought it is, it's more to the side. Other things we discovered over here are dated to the Maccabees period and after it, and I don't want to get to it right now, okay? But I'm going to tell you more about it in the future.
So here's what's fascinating. In Zechariah, it says, Zechariah 12, it says, in that day his feet will stand on the Mount of Olives, and the Mount of Olives will split from 14 north to south. So right now, we're just to the south of the Temple Mount. So just to orient, that's east. So there's the Mount of Olives. It will split north to south, and then a river flows, and it goes down this continental rift to the Dead Sea. We'll talk about that later on the other end. It says it makes the salt water fresh. If you put a parallel line here directly north from the Temple Mount, within feet, it hits down in Saudi Arabia what I believe to be the split rock of Moses. So Moses strikes it with his rod, and it says the Lord was on top of the rock. He says, I will stand in front of you, and the water pours out, and he gives water to the people. And then in the millennium, this whole thing, in a sense, like a greater split rock splits, and the fresh water flows, and wherever it goes, it gives life. And they're literally within feet on the exact same north-south parallel line. And it's almost like the split rock that gave water was again a foreshadow of this crazy geologic thing that it talks about.
Didn't you say that?
First of all, there's two things we would like to read from the scriptures over here. Maybe somebody would like to read it for us. We'll read 2 Samuel 13 through 16.
Does anyone want to volunteer?
We're not yet, but just prepared. So, what's your name, sir? Jerry. Jerry's going to read it for us. 2 Samuel 6, 13 through 16. This is King David bring the Ark of the Covenant. And the second thing we want to read is 2 Samuel 11. 2 Samuel 11, 1 through 5. So, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the city of David. 2 Samuel, you do the first reader. 2 Samuel 6, 13 through 16. And who's going to be the second reader?
Mark.
2 Samuel 11, 1 through 5. But we'll give you the hint before. So, one more time, welcome to the city of David. This is one of if not the most excavated site, the most excavated site in Israel. And the reason for that is the book that all of us have in our hands or in our iPhones. #1 bestseller ever, the Bible. Okay? Now, over here, I can't believe I forgot my water. I left my water in the other bag. Oh my God. Over here, the Bible really come alive. David, Solomon, Bathsheba, Uriah, Jeremiah, Hezekiah, Nehemiah, and many others, real people that walks those real streets, and we found the archaeological evidence for that. So the Bible come alive. Large parts of our Bible were written right over here. That was the capital kingdom of Judea at the biblical days. So it's a must site for us. The ancient Jerusalem. The beginning of Jerusalem was more than 4,000 years ago. Next to the spring of Gihon. That's where we're going next. It's on the lowest point over there, the Gihon spring, and the city was built more than 4,400 years ago. Around the spring. And Jerusalem is surrounded by mountains, like God surrounding his own people. Jerusalem was built between the Kidron River on one side and the Central Valley on the other side. So it was well protected from both directions. The Kidron River and the Central Valley. And the Kidron River was way deeper than today. So the slope was steeper than today. It was filled up with garbage. Yes, 3,000 years old garbage. But in the biblical days, it was way deeper, and it was actually protecting the city. And you can see that Jerusalem is surrounded by mountains from all directions. When you hear, you can understand that. But from the north, the enemy shall come. The only direction that the city is not well protected would be from the north, because the enemy can come from the high ground to the low ground. And that's why you need to defend the city from the north side. So right over there where the road is, where the buses are, we believe used to be another small valley. And already the ancient Jebusite city that King David conquered had the defense canal over there, and a big fortress protected the city from the north side. And the name of this fortress was Zion. And this is the fortress that King David conquered when he conquered the city of Zion. It used to be a Jebusite city. Now if you come over here, I'm so sorry about this olive tree, but just behind the olive tree, 1978, Professor Ronnie Reich excavated a very large retaining wall. You can see just the upper part of it. You see those ancient stairs looks like? Starts from the bottom all the way to the side. It's a very large retaining wall, very large support wall. Go back 3,800 years old. Roughly the days of Abraham. And the purpose, and again, everything I'm telling you is to the best of our knowledge today. The purpose of this detention wall was to allow a very large building to be built right where you see the construction site today, right above the souvenir store. So most of the archaeologists agree it was Professor Eilat Mazar who excavated what she claimed to be King David Palace. By the way, she passed a year ago. One of the greatest archaeologists, Professor Eilat Mazar, claimed to find King David Palace, right, the foundations of it, right under the souvenir store. And we had a discussion with Professor Gabriel Barkai, probably the #1 archaeologist of Jerusalem, and he says he thinks she's absolutely right. Another thing she discovered a wall dated to the time of King Solomon, because in King Solomon's time the city included Mount Zion, Temple Mount as well. Anyway, you can imagine King David's palace to be right over there, and the city was city that was built compound together. The houses were built one on top of the other on the slope of the mountain. Actually, if you look at the Arabic village on the other side, this village is called the village of Siloam, or the village of Siloam, that was built only in the last 150 years. It was built on the ancient cemetery from the days of King Solomon. You can still see the holes, the graves between the houses. So 120 years ago, there was no houses here. But if you want to imagine how the ancient Jerusalem was built, one house on top of the other, it's like a mirror picture. You got it? So one house was built on top of the other, and the king's palace is on the top. Before what we're going to do now, we want to walk downhill, all the way down. We want to show you where believed to be King David's palace. To show you down there where the archives of the kingdom of Judea were discovered. We didn't find the letters, but we found the clay seals that sealed those letters. 51 of them were found, all carrying names of people that we know of, or many of them we know of, from the Bible. It's called the G area. And then we continue down the underground secret water system all the way to the spring of Gihon. That's where King Solomon was anointed to be king. And then we take either the wet or the dry, and we'll end at the pool of Siloam, the main baptismal pool of Jerusalem at Jesus' time. Okay, so King David Palace, the G area, the archives, the underground water system, the Gihon spring, and the pool of Siloam. And our bus will meet us there. So that's our plans for the next 2 hours.
This is 2 Samuel.
2 Samuel,
6.
King David bring the Ark of the Covenant. Let me give you the preview. King David conquered the city. He named it the city of David. He purchased the threshing floor of Arona the Jebusite. And now what King David needs to do? To bring the Ark of the Covenant. So the glory of God will be in the city. He tried to do it one time, failed. Second time, failed. Third time was a great success. And he brought the covenant over here.
And it was so that when they had bare the ark of the Lord had gone 6 paces, he sacrificed oxen and fatlings. And David danced before the Lord with all his might. And David was girded with a linen ephod. So David and all his house of Israel brought up the ark of the Lord with shouting and with the sound of the trumpet. And as the ark of the Lord came into the city of David, Michal, Saul's daughter, looked through a window and saw King David leaping and dancing before the Lord. And she despised him in her heart.
Thank you so much. Since we have no kids around us, I can tell you that our Bible meant to be read to the whole people of Israel. since the days of Nehemiah. And it's for the whole family. That's why some things, or sometimes, the Bible use clean language or a euphemism. But King David dancing before the Lord with all his might and wearing a girdle ephod, I can tell you surely they didn't have this modern invention that we have today, which is called underwears. Okay, everybody got it? Do I have to give you more specific?
It's a kilt thing in Scotland.
So, seriously, it's for the whole family. So the Bible is written in this way that everybody will get it, except from everybody who's not supposed to get it. But back then, if King David dancing with all his might with a linen ephod, it's something very unmodest. And the daughter of King Saul, Michal, she looks from the windows and she despises within her heart. So imagine King David with all this joy before the God and bringing the Ark of the Covenant, establishing his kingdom, and God finally did this, and he get back home and he get this cold shower from Michal. How beautiful is it, the King of Israel dancing and all that every slave can see his might.
See a circumcision.
But you can hear the irony over there. And Michal was punished. What was her punishment? Barren, no kids. Who punished? It's not very clear. Either the king himself, either God or the king himself. But what I want to emphasize over here, there were no kids to Michal and David. Jerusalem is between the territory of Judah in the south and the territory of Benjamin in the north. Benjamin, the tribe of Saul, the leader of the north tribes of Israel. Judah, the south tribes of Israel. Having a capital in the middle, you're supposed to bring the 12 tribes of Israel together around Jerusalem. But there were no son for the house of Saul and the house of David. And later, when King Solomon died, we're going to tell the story what happened in the days of Jeroboam and Rehoboam, the son of Solomon, and this kingdom split. Okay? And now we have the kingdom of Judah at the south and the kingdom of Israel at the north. The great kingdom of Israel in the north and the smaller kingdom of Judea at the south. One thing we want to read over here, and after this, I'm not sure if we're going to tell the story. If we find the time, we'll tell the story. Who's the second reader?
Hey.
We need to stand in.
Okay, and what verses do you want read?
Sorry, my mind is somewhere else. And King David, 2 Samuel 11, 1 through 5, in the spring of the year.
Okay. In the spring of the year, the time when kings go out to battle, David sent Joab and his servants with him and all Israel. And they ravaged the Ammonites and besieged Rabbah. But David remained at Jerusalem. It happened late one afternoon when David arose from his couch and was walking on the roof of the king's house, that he saw from the roof a woman bathing, and the woman was very beautiful. And David sent and inquired about the woman. And one said, "Is not this Bathsheba, the daughter of Eliam, the wife of Uriah the Hittite?" So David sent messengers and took her, and she came to him, and he lay with her. And in parentheses, now she had been purifying herself from her uncleanness. Then she returned to her house, and the woman conceived, and she sent and told David, "I am pregnant."
Thank you so much. Oh my gosh. Friends, I don't want you to misunderstand me. The irony is it's not because of me, okay? The irony is in the text. The Bible is criticizing King David, emphasizing his sin. The irony is in the text. It was the spring of the year when kings goes out to battle, reminding us what is the most important role of the king of Israel. What he needs to do? To lead the people to battle. And what he's doing? Sending Joab to do the dirty work. Later Joab tell him, we're just about to finish the city. Won't you like to come and do the finish? And what King David did? He stayed in town. And what happened? He wake up late afternoon. We need to, I said you need to read between the lines. Why he woke up late afternoon? Maybe somebody was, carefully I'm saying, maybe he went to sleep late the night before? Maybe he was celebrating? Could be. And he looked down and he saw a beautiful woman. Where was Bathsheba, ladies and gentlemen? Where was Bathsheba? On the roof. So that's why you came to the city of David. It's a time to clean Bathsheba from her fault. Ladies and gentlemen, if you read it again, or you can read it again, perfectly written, King David was on the roof. You want to read it again? Because people don't believe me.
The whole thing?
Just about King David on the roof, because I wanted people to believe me. It's not only you, all the groups are ever guided over here, all of them believed Bathsheba was on the roof. That's what happened when you let men teach the Bible. Sorry, Pastor, we need somebody to blame for.
I take full responsibility.
So starting in verse 2, it happened late one afternoon when David arose from his couch and was walking on the roof of the king's house, that he saw from the roof a woman bathing, and the woman was very beautiful.
So he was on the roof, he saw from the roof, and now we understand, because if King David is up there and he's looking down, he could see in others people's courtyard. Women didn't take bath on the rooftops in the biblical days. Come on.
We still don't.
He could see other people's courtyard, okay? And she was cleaning from her impurity. That's just like Pastor Joel said, she needs to go to the ritual bath. Yes? So I think there is an irony over here, like King David forgot his biology lessons.
She was getting baptized and he's lusting after her.
But if he
She's fertile.
you teach that's the 24 hours of fertility, because if you count, you count you have to count 7 clean days from her period time. So if you count the 5 days and then the 7 days, then you go to the ritual bath, then you make relationships with your husband, yes, and then you get pregnant. So that's the 24 hours. I'm not going to do the whole story now, but it's getting worse. But go again and read it again, and you see that the righteous is actually Uriah, the non-Jew. And the Bible deliberately comparing between David and Uriah. Uriah is the man. Even when he drank, he didn't go to his wife. He is the hero. He's the one who controlled his temper. And there is a story of war, and I'm about to end. The whole story is a story within a story. It starts with the war with the wars against the Moabites, and it ends with the war. And in the middle there is another war. So in the outside war against the outside enemies, we have great victory. But in the other war, inside, there is a horrible failure. And the man of the hour is actually Nathan the prophet, because he put the finger in the face of David. He goes to the king and tell him. And that's what amazing with the kings of Israel and the prophets of Israel, and our Bible is not hiding anything from us. No other nations you tell you that the king did all those things. 2 last things. I recommend to go and read Psalm 51, a psalm for David that he wrote after Nathan the prophet came and proved him. Wash my hearts and create me a new heart. We see King David as the born again. He is our model. There is always a hope. And when Peter speaks after the coming of the Holy Spirit, when 3,000 were baptized, he mentioned King David. And I think he mentioned it for the all reasons. And if you check all our heroes, none of them was perfect. And I'm not saying anything about the modern prime ministers, presidents, and all that.
Or Kanye.
None of Gideon was imperfect. King David was imperfect. Solomon was imperfect. And all of them were imperfect. Only one was perfect. Okay? And maybe to be continued some other time. Oh, last thing, sorry. Book of Matthew, chapter 1, we have the genealogy of Yeshua. The bloodline in the biblical days followed the husband. But for some reason, there are 5 women being mentioned over there. And Matthew mentioned the wife of Uriah. She is also spiritually and physically one of the ancestors, the grandmothers of Yeshua, the wife of Uriah.